Okay, so we'll start. My name is Nebojša Ćirić. I work for Google in the internationalization team, and I'm chair of Unicode Inflection work group. And
my name is George Rhoten, and I work at Apple, and I make Siri multilingual. I work on the software internationalization framework there.
So you might be familiar with this talk. We talked about this last year. What George said last year was theory. Now it's practice. We actually have some results. So I'm going to go over what the problem is, give some examples, some updates compared to in AI applications from the last year. And then George is going to take over with details of library, how to use it, and what the features are. And of course, this image is AI generated, and it has one problem. I'll give you a few seconds. It's biological. Somebody doesn't have a body. Anyways, one of the cats doesn't have a body there. So the problem statement is, so inflection is the process of changing the form of a word to express different grammatical features like tense, number, or gender or case. It's complex, it's language specific, there are nuances, and it's really hard to program. It's currently unsolved. There were some in-house solutions for assistant providing companies, but you cannot get a solution off the shelf. And this affects translation localization costs, we'll see later, accuracy and feel of the messaging for the speakers. And this affects user happiness with the product. So for inflection, for native speakers of inflected languages, I just wanted to give you kind of an example of how it feels. It's grammatically incorrect, as it would be in this example of English, of there is 3 item of your inbox. Doesn't really match. You understand what it says, but it's ugly. So which word classes are affected usually here? Infinite articles and adjectives. As you can see here, they usually match the number, the gender, and the case. The English equivalent doesn't change, but German does. Nouns, in this case, we are going towards the lake. We arrived at the lake. The suffixes in the words change. Again, English doesn't. Verbs, conjugations, usually plural and singular. In some languages, it's past tense has to match the gender of the noun. So the current solutions that we have that we kind of solve these problems in UI. You have your ticket to location is approved. We use the colon trick where we remove the need for casing, but it just, TTS cannot handle the colon, so spoken language is going to be broken. It looks artificial. Hey username, so personalization. We just remove the username and say hey. So it's less personal, but it works. You received funds from somebody. You received funds from user named Mark. Yeah, it works. Removes again the need for casing, but it's not really fluent native language sentence, right? Turn right towards some point of interest. Currently, we hard code in localization. This is where the cost comes in. Let's say you want to go to church. You need one sentence that says church, or a lake, or a mountain, or whatever, and then multiply that with number of languages you care about. And plurals, you got 2 badges. So we have that case covered, except that badges are, again, a static string, and you have to translate everything that goes with it. So the costs again. So there's really no good solution, but these are like 1,000 paper cuts in our products that you need to navigate. It's like, yeah, none of them is really that bad, but combined, they produce a UI that doesn't feel native. Now, some updates about AI. It's still costly. It's still slow. You cannot put it on the critical path without heavy caching in front and hope to get response in, like, say, milliseconds. It's going to be seconds. Top-tier languages are covered with data. Torso and tail, the quality drops. And it can be even worse with lower quality of data, not just amount. There is a bias embedded in this. So if language or the corpus of data doesn't have, say, female names for professions, you won't get those answers properly. Hallucinations still happen. So if you have critical product that shouldn't make mistakes, then you need a human in the loop to check the answers first before it reaches the user, which is costly. And sometimes you just need to change a couple of words. You don't need to change the whole sentence. So why bring a hammer? You just need a little bit tool. Of course, this image is wrong, again, AI generated. But there are places where AI can help, and we discussed it like throughout the day already. So offline processing is good. You don't have latency concerns. Cost is still there, but we tried fixing grammar. So we made grammatically incorrect language sentences in, say, Serbian and Russian, run it through the big models, and the results are really surprisingly good and consistent. For inflection library, we used the lexicon generation for AI. So AI helped us inflect 150 nouns in Serbian and upload it to Wikidata with minimal edits. So lexical generation is good if your language is well supported with LLM. There are some languages that would benefit from some ML approach because the rules and dictionaries are complicated. And one example is the Finnish word here that I think consists of 5 different word classes. And it means, I wonder if I should aimlessly run around. So, maybe an ML model would help here, find the patterns and help with agglutinative approach languages. And one interesting thing that's happening is that client-side support is slowly getting nano models. So Chrome 141 came out with some nano models embedded. Pixel phones 10 and above have nano models. The problem is that it's not consistent across the platforms, so you have to kind of have stopgap measures between different platforms. So it still doesn't solve the problem, and it's years in making until all devices have it. So progress so far. The Inflection project started in UTW 2023. Apple contributed code for API and logic bootstrapping in 2025. We started working with Wikidata, contributing dictionaries, cleaning up. So we are solely based on Wikidata. Please contribute. Google and Google's Summer of Code interns contributed Linux and macOS packaging, so you can download binaries and use them directly. And we added 2 more languages. And we recently had official 0.1 technical preview release. I think it was in October. So that's the work so far. And then George is going to take over and tell more about the library.
Hello. So as part of the contributions from Apple, there were about approximately 900,000 lines of code and supporting data. About 68,000 was code and documentation. Most of the rest was dealing with data, kind of supporting that kind of Finnish example earlier, where you had a word that was compound and you needed to decompound it and inflect only part of the word. There was about 4.3 million words from Wikidata that were consumed by the project, and just for the current list of languages. And about 9,000 were added from Google and Google Summer of Code and other contributors. And the project relies heavily on CLDR and ICU to handle some of the data. For example, how to get that quantity example. I may say in 1 kilometer turn right, or in 2 kilometers turn right, and the kilometer may change from singular to plural differently in various languages. And that's an example where we use ICU and CLDR to handle such situations. Right now we have a list of languages that we support, and hopefully this will go here. So we have a long list of languages. So we have the English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, Hindi. A lot of these languages are supported. But as you go down, you start seeing big red cross marks on it. Basically, there's a lot of room for improvement. And I will solicit everyone in this room, if you're interested in this project, maybe contribute some data or some code, and we can talk about how to make that work. And, whoops. How do I get to full screen? Oh, there. So the things that it does is it will inflect nouns, adjectives, verbs, and personal pronouns. We can inflect a list of items, like an and list, a list of things that you and together, or an or list. You can query the grammatical category value, or what's also known as a grammeme of a word. So, for example, I say, the light is on. I will need to, if I have a template that has some object I'm putting in the sentence, the light, I can swap it to object or computer or something else. And I need to know if that's singular or plural so that I can change the verb is to are. So like I'd say the light is on and the lights are on. You can customize the inflection behavior for context-sensitive words. So if you make up a word that's new to your application, you can do that. Or you can handle anything that's ambiguous. I'll provide an example of that later. The default behavior is derived from the Lexeme data in Wikidata. This data is public domain, so it's easy to consume. Anyone can contribute to it, and it is easy to anyone modify as necessary for your use case. And right now, the tech preview is fairly functional. It has some partial integration with the Unicode MessageFormat framework. It's only done part of it, and there's still a lot more functionality that could be integrated in the project, pending more time to work on it. And one of the things I wanted to mention is kind of the concept of how Unicode inflection works. And one of the things that comes up is like, well, I don't understand how this stuff works. Some people may start with a lemma. So in this case, I've picked Swedish, the word for cat. And you might start with a nominative indefinite singular form, cat, and you could say, well, I want to make it plural definite, for example, in the genitive form. So I'll have to specify all three forms, that is plural, definite, and a genitive. But there's something else that you can do instead is the concept of lemmaless inflection. So in lemmaless inflection, what I'll do is I'll start with, let's say, the singular definite form in the genitive, singular definite genitive form, I'll say kattens, and then I will make it plural because I'm dealing with a number that's being generated at runtime, and I will change it to kattunes. And for those Swedish-speaking people in the audience, I'm sorry if I mangled the pronunciation, but the concept is that I can, lemma-based inflection, I just start with only the one form, whereas lemmaless inflection, I start with anything else in this table, and I just change one grammeme to get the other form. Part of the Unicode inflection, there's a lot of concepts like, well, it can do anything and anything possible, and that's not really the case. There are a few cases that there's too much ambiguity and it's not really there's some data that's there that's really hard to get out of just the word by itself. For example, the word roads, R-H-O-D-E-S. And the question is, if there is a business, is it on roads or is it in roads? And the question varies because I may say it's on an island or in a city. And the thing is that roads is both a city and an island, and depends on what you're talking about. And that's an example where it's out of scope. We do not touch that kind of topic. That's a higher level problem. It is also not a grammar checker for the entire sentence. It is primarily used as a way you have a template and you just want to insert a variable in there and then have the rest of the sentence grammatically agree. And it can't rephrase or reorder entire sentences. So we're not doing anything dramatically different. It's just like I have something that's structurally approximately correct, and I'll just tweak it a little bit to get everything else into grammatical agreement. And I wanted to give some code examples of how this stuff works. So we have inflecting a word and getting the grammains of a word. And so what we have here is some C++ code. We have all the includes and using the namespace, and we will, you can get what's called a semantic feature model. We have the model here that has all the information of like how a given word can be inflected. And then we have here what's called an inflectable string concept. So this is a generic word. And in this case, I'm going to use bienvenido in the Spanish language. And in case you don't know Spanish, there's two ways to say welcome. So if I'm welcoming someone, I can say bienvenido. That's the masculine form. Some people make it more, that's the default form. But it's not as inviting if you're saying welcome to a feminine speaker. In that case, you actually want to say, well, if it's a woman, I would actually want the feminine form, and I would actually prefer bienvenida for that person when I'm saying welcome. So it helps you kind of be more welcoming by being able to inflect correctly. There's also the ability to change the word. Let's pick a random word. Let's say gato, cat in Spanish. I want to make it plural. I can give it I can say that it's plural, and I will get gatos as the output. And I can also add the definite article. So I made it plural, and I now want to make it definite. Now with that, what I can do is I've made it definite, I format it, and the output will be los gatos. And so there's a whole bunch of other interesting stuff here. You can also determine if the word is indefinite, or if it's singular or plural, and all sorts of stuff like that. There's, scrolling down, there's also how to customize the inflection of a word. For that, very similar, I have a base model. Let's give a word. So there's some ambiguity with the word brush. Brush can mean two things. It can either be brush, as in the brush in the forest. It's uncountable. There is no singular or plural form, but maybe in some cases I actually do want to talk about the brush. And in that case, I may want to customize the inflection to say, oh, okay, well, we're talking about the brush, and I want to make both singular and plural forms to be the same thing. And in that case, what I'll do is when I ask for the singular or plural form, I will just get brush. But the default behavior would be to interpret it to be brushes for the plural form, as in paintbrush, or toothbrush, or some other brush, hairbrush. And so that's an example where there's some ambiguity, and there's specific contexts where you need to override how that inflection behavior works, just for a few specific words. You can also have quantities. For quantity, again, you have your headers and your namespace usage. And in case you didn't know, the inflection, all these examples are on the GitHub for the inflection project. We'll have some URLs that you can refer to later for how to get access to this tutorial. And in this example, we have a quantity. And so what we have is we have some sort of basic word. So this one is in German. And what we have is we have the number 1. And we have both a printable and a speakable form. And we can see that we have one Nachricht, hopefully I pronounce it correctly, and but then it's eine, and that's how I pronounce it. And that's to get the proper pronunciation of the number 1. And if I want to just change it to 2, you'll notice that the noun has changed to a different form, and also the number is pronounced as appropriate. I can also modify the grammatical case if I want to. So you'll notice that earlier we had this form of the number 1, but once we changed it to the dative form, it's einer. We also have the usage of the ability to handle pronouns. So if you have a system that you want to plug into, you know the user is going to be using the pronouns of that are masculine form or feminine form. You can provide some grammatical agreement with your choice of words. If you know, so as an example here, I'll just use English. In this one, we'll start with the word they, and this kind of goes into that lemma-less inflection form. There's various things you can refer to. So this is like the third person. You're referring to someone in the third person. You don't know their gender. What you can do is you can use they. That's generally okay. But if, for example, you know that it's a woman, then you would actually say she. Or if it's a man, you would say he. And this provides a way to provide a more personalized experience with generating a message to refer to someone. But in some cases, you can also store this information to take this grammatical gender and apply it to other words as appropriate. So if you have a word like doctor or actor or actress, in English, doctor is not gendered, but in a lot of other languages, they are gendered. So they have a masculine or feminine form, and you, to avoid bias and overgeneralizing, you want to make it personalized. You want to be able to get the title of the person correct. So with this pronoun concept, use pronoun concept here to make that work. And last on this tutorial part here, we also have lists. And again, we have the model, and we're going to inflect a cat and an iguana. So in this case, we have gato and iguana. And so we create an and list here. So in this case, in Spanish, if you know your CLDR, there's actually 2 ways to say and in Spanish. And it depends on what the last word sounds like. So in this case, it's gato y iguana. But if I want to make it, I can also make all the words in the list definite. So at that point, I could say el gato and y la iguana. So you notice that the word and changed depending on how I added the extra indefinite article, and now I've changed which and I'm using. And let's see.
Just click on tab.
Up there, okay. And one important thing to note is about the speakable string is that since this, what this provides is the ability to not only print one way, but to speak it a specific way. This can be helpful if there's any sort of ambiguity, like you have an abbreviation like DR period. Does that mean doctor or drive? Is the one pronounced one or first or anything else like that? The speakable string is used in a lot of API. It makes it easier to separate out inflection on specific parts of a string. And inflection generally happens on the printable part, though. but then whatever's printed is also usually mirrored on the spoken side. So work ahead. We have what we want to do is we want to build on top of the tech preview release that we did, and we want to support more languages. And we want to also work on reducing the amount of effort to add a new language. And hopefully support more operating systems besides Mac OS and Linux as far as what we have right now. And you can probably guess what some of the other operating systems, place your favorite operating system in there, and we'd be interested in supporting it. We are also very much interested in consuming and improving the quality of the Wikimedia or Wikidata lexicographical data. So there's already a fair number of languages, like English is very well represented in there and a few other languages, but there's many others where there's just not enough data to provide a very meaningful, robust experience for usage in the Unicode Inflection library. And of course, we also even just appreciate knowing that you're using it or you're interested in it. And so we'd like to get feedback on the Unicode Inflection project. And I wanted to at least mention, as far as like how to contribute to Wikidata, if you're interested in just that side, to just generate data that Unicode Inflection uses, you can sign up, create a free account on wikidata.org. You can search for existing terms like computer or loose. An example would be right here. So you can see English, and you can see that it's a noun, it's in English. And if you go down to the bottom here, you'll see that there is the singular form computer and the plural form computers. So that's a very easy example to handle. There is also, let's just use this one, luz in Spanish, which means light. It's also a noun, but also has grammatical gender. In this case, it's feminine. And you can go down and you can see that there is the singular form and the plural form luces. We have a bit of information on how to add data to a lexicon. Nebojša has some information on that in more detail, but if you want to know more, I recommend going here to get more information on how to add data. And also in some cases, if some languages are covered, you can just start with in Wikidata, there's just a lexeme that you start with, and then it will try to provide all the other forms. It's essentially a form to fill out that's a lot easier to fill out than using the Wikidata interface directly. The kind of data that we desire are words that are same concept, but typically vary based on grammatical case, grammatical gender, grammatical number. Typically, these words are nouns, adjectives, and verbs. Wikidata generally likes a sense, which is additional data in there, for being added, and it just means like in Porta in Portuguese, it could have a sense that it's a door in English. So a little bit of an association of what the word is. And for a single lexeme, when a human occupation depends on the gender of a given person, so again, like doctor versus in masculine and feminine forms, you have two forms, separate them out to separate on two different lines. And something that we'd like to prioritize is the CLDR data, so things like month names, day names, measurement units, and stuff like that, that we would appreciate the most initially, but more words, we were happy with more words, so if you want to add more, even better. And I'm sure that as time goes on, we will want to make sure the coverage is larger as we go along. The kind of data that we do not want to consider inside this project, phrases that can be broken down to separate words like red car, blue car. You have the adjective red, or the color, and you can just separate that off from the noun. And the noun is car versus cars, and that's the only thing we care about. We don't really care if you add a word and you don't add any form that says, here's the singular form and here's the plural form. We really need that information so we can inflect between the forms. We don't care about the abbreviations like MT for mountain or DR for drive or doctor. Don't add synonyms like if you say heart, don't add the heart emoji. And likewise, don't give it a synonym like heart is also known as a ticker. Just focus on just the surface form, the lexeme, and just how to get all the variations of that form. Don't make up words also. And I've seen this. The chiefly comedic singular form of sheep is shoop, known one time in I've seen publicly, and I didn't see it in Wikidata, but it's elsewhere. And I do not want comedy in my lexicon. I just want to get to the point. Don't trivial grammatical information that can be easily derived. Not that you could add it, but we're just going to ignore it. We're just going to skip it. Like the definite form of cat is the cat. Well, yeah, I know how to do that. That's kind of the point of the Unicode Inflection project, to add the definite form as necessary. We don't need that. And we don't need lowercase variants because you could have a lowercase variant. I've seen that in a few languages in Wikidata. I don't need that. Just give me the proper form that you normally see it and stick with that. Because it's case-insensitive matching, and we'll deal with the casing as necessary. If someone does in all caps, we'll deal with it. And don't combine different parts of speech under a single lexeme. So build, it could be it could be a part of building, as in building buildings, the noun, or build to build, built, stuff like that. Just keep them as separate lexemes. Keep the singular part of speech. A verb is a verb. Don't try to mix in the nouns in with a verb. If you want to know more, you can also deal with, if you don't want to deal with the data, you want to know more about the project, you can contribute directly. We have the inflection project here. That's the URL to it. And you can submit issues. That's part of your feedback. There's also a forum in there if you want to just talk a little bit more about it. You're also able to create pull requests, though, again, please submit an issue that you're addressing. And there is some more information on how to create pull requests. So it's more resources. We have the repository. There's this document, the presentations. We have a tutorial, list of supported languages. If you want to get all the API documentation, we have it here on the github.io. And if you want to know how to add support for a new language, which we have new languages added, there's a document here on how to add a new language. And we have, just for reference, here are some of our current contributors. There's Nebojša, me, Frank, Rich, Mark, Denny, and Yelena. They've helped with participating in this project. And with that, I am almost on time. So we are available for answering any questions that you may have.
And organizers told us that please use the mics in the back. There are two.
If you have any questions.
If you have any questions.
Yes.
Hi, thanks for a really interesting presentation and what looks like a really interesting project. You've pointed us to some documentation, but could you just say very quickly, like, what is involved in adding support for an additional language?
I can take that. So I added Serbian. We started with a dictionary of maybe 50 words. I added additional 150. There was some kind of plumbing of connecting Serbian as available language in the whole framework, downloading the dictionary from Wikidata and building the file. And for some languages, that's kind of enough. For some, you can add rules that kind of bypass the dictionary and make it smaller. So depending on the language, it's going to be more or less involved, but the dictionary, the lexicon, is the important first step.
So that's involving giving a listing of inflected forms and their grammatical categories, their grammemes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm wondering, are there NLP projects that you've been able to get that kind of data from. I think of things like spacey universal dependencies, where there may be some of that kind of data. Have you been able to find if there are other sources to start pulling in from?
We were focusing on Wikidata first. These are good pointers. Looking into different sources of information would be good. I think we already talked with some people today how they could contribute. Yeah, definitely. The conversion is the problem, and Wikidata bulk upload sometimes triggers the admins to like say, hey, why are you uploading 1,000 words right now? Let us know first and stuff. So there's a little bit of back and forth with the admins in Wikidata, but they're pretty okay.
Let me just also add, so one thing about Wikidata is that it's public domain, so the licensing is very agreeable. As far as other projects, it would have to, for us to consider adding support for it, it would probably require a similar review on the licensing. Also, I think for some of the projects, there's been a kind of a question of, as far as the grammatical structure, there is part of the Unicode Inflection project that deals with that, but I think universal dependencies deals with that kind of stuff also, right? Yeah, so there is some overlap, there can be some inspiration, but as far as like bulk consumption of data right now, we don't have Wikidata, and maybe, you know, as I was saying, open to alternatives if there's people interested that are, you know, want to contribute to effort.
So one other question, when you showed that list of languages, I noticed on the page it said in priority order. Can you define priority?
I'm not going to go into details, but it's the number of users, online users, and you know how it goes with the per capita spend and all of that. So that's a kind of product decision. It's a list, right?
I think we also write in there that it's inspired by the CLDR priority list.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Samantha, second-year master's at Stanford. Oh, sorry. Okay, second-year master's at Stanford, and I'm part of Stanford Silicon. And I was just curious if you guys were thinking about like dialects too, as in like Spain, they might use different words than like Mexico, even though they both use Spanish. And I was just wondering if that was something you guys were hoping to like expand into, or if it's kind of the priority is just the baseline language first.
Excellent point. Unicode Inflection does support that. And the key part is that what's typically happening is that someone, either the translator or the user, has chosen the dialect that they want to support. And so there is some concern about which word should be used. We don't make that choice for the spelling variant. Someone else makes that choice, and we just inflect it as appropriate. Now, in the concept of English, for example, color, there's two ways to say color, or theater, or center, and it depends on if you're talking about British English or American English. And we just mix it all together, and what we expect is that theater, if you make it plural, you add an S. Color, you're adding an S. You're not changing color without the O into color, color without the U into the color with the U. We do not have that mapping, but we do have it between singular and plural, between the variants.
But we do then assume that the rules of the language are the same.
Yes.
That's the assumption.
So yes, if the dialect has a different grammatical structure, that should really be a different ISO 639 language code. That's, or at least that's my opinion. Yes, you are correct. Yes.
Oops. We are at time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.